Your brain is running software that was written when you were 8 years old. And if nobody ever updated that code, chances are it's the exact thing keeping you stuck right now. Not your income, not your industry, your wiring. And the wild part? Every single money expert I've studied, from behavioral economists to eight-figure entrepreneurs, they all circle back to the same uncomfortable truth. Most people will never build their first million, not because they can't, but because they keep trying to fix their bank account when the real problem is upstairs. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what the top money experts say about building real wealth from zero, why your brain fights you every step of the way, and the one counterintuitive shift that changes everything. I need you to stick around to the end, because the last thing I'm going to share is the part that nobody talks about in these videos. And it's the thing that has the biggest actual impact on whether you build lasting wealth or just make money and spend it. Here's a number to ground us. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the median American household has a net worth of $192,700. Sounds okay on the surface until you realize that for people aged 45 to 54, the median is $247,200, and that includes home equity. Strip the house out, most Americans' investable wealth drops to nearly nothing. You're not just behind. The system as currently designed almost guarantees you will be behind unless you understand what we're about to get into. So let's fix that. Start with the math, because it's simpler than anyone wants to admit, and that simplicity is exactly why most people ignore it. Economist and financial educator Jaspreet Singh lays it out clean. Income minus your expenses equals your investments plus your savings. That's the whole formula. Everything else is noise. But here's where behavioral economics blows the whole thing apart. Nobel Prize winner Richard Thaler, who won his prize in 2017 specifically for work in behavioral economics, discovered something he called mental accounting. It's the way human brains don't actually treat money as a neutral, fungible resource. We put money in invisible mental buckets. The $500 you got from a tax refund feels like free money, even though it's identical dollar for dollar to the $500 you earned on a Wednesday afternoon. So we spend the refund on something dumb and don't even feel bad about it. What this means in practice, you can know the formula and still blow it because your brain is cheating at the math without telling you. A guy named Derek, a 34-year-old marketing manager in Denver, told me something I haven't been able to shake. He'd been making decent money for 6 years. Good salary, stable company, the kind of life that from the outside looks like someone has figured it out. But he showed me his bank app one afternoon and went quiet. Then he said, "I make more now than I've ever made in my life, and I have less saved than I did at 26. He said it with the kind of tired laugh that means it's not funny. That's Thaler's mental accounting in real time. Every raise Derek got, his brain recalibrated his deserved lifestyle ceiling. More coming in meant more invisible buckets he was allowed to fill. The gap between income and savings never closed because the spending floor kept rising along with the income. That's not a character flaw. That's brain architecture. And the fix isn't willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. That's documented by Roy Baumeister's ego depletion research at Florida State University. The fix is automation. Set up automatic transfers to investment accounts the moment your paycheck hits, before your brain registers the money arrived. Default bias, the same psychological quirk that keeps people stuck in situations long past their expiration date, actually works in your favor here when you design the system right. Set it up once. Let inertia run it. Here's the thing that caught me completely off guard the first time I really thought about it. Being analytically smart might actually be working against you when it comes to building wealth from nothing. That sounds wrong. Stay with me. Carol Dweck at Stanford has spent decades researching fixed versus growth mindsets. Her 2006 research, replicated across thousands of subjects, shows that people who believe abilities are fundamentally fixed tend to avoid challenges where they might fail. They protect their identity as smart by not taking risks that could prove them wrong. And what does risk avoidance look like with money? It looks like endless research, perfect planning, waiting until conditions are ideal, and never actually starting. Then there's the Dunning-Kruger effect, documented by David Dunning and Justin Kruger at Cornell in their landmark 1999 study. At the beginning of learning any skill, people with low competence vastly overestimate their abilities. But here's the side of it nobody talks about. Highly analytical people often overestimate the difficulty of new challenges and systematically underestimate their own capacity to figure things out by doing them. Smart people see every risk. They build 12-step mental models for why something might fail before taking step one. And while they're running simulations, someone less analytical is out there making the actual mistakes, learning from them, and stacking real skills. I know a woman named Priya, a 31-year-old data analyst in Austin, who spent 4 years analyzing real estate markets before buying her first rental property. 4 years of spreadsheets. 4 years of almost ready. When she finally bought in early 2022, values had already appreciated significantly from where they were in 2018 when she first started researching. She told me, "The analysis wasn't protecting me. It was just a more sophisticated-sounding way of being scared." The uncomfortable truth the money experts agree on. You cannot think your way into your first million. You have to act your way there. And acting means accepting that the early stage is going to be messy and uncomfortable and produce results that don't match your models. Now here's where the brain science gets genuinely interesting, because you've probably heard the visualization stuff. Set goals. Write affirmations. Picture the money in your bank account. John Assaraf, who runs NeuroGym and has studied the neuroscience of goal achievement for decades, talks about priming your left prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain associated with goal-directed behavior and positive anticipation, by combining visualization with deep emotional rehearsal. And the underlying neuroscience is real. Mental rehearsal activates neural circuits in ways that can genuinely prime you to notice opportunities and take action. But here's the part most people teaching visualization don't tell you. Gabriele Wettingen, a psychology professor at NYU, spent 20 years studying the actual effects of positive visualization on goal achievement. Her findings, published across multiple peer-reviewed studies and synthesized in her 2014 book, Rethinking Positive Thinking, were counterintuitive and a little uncomfortable. Purely positive visualization of your ideal future actually decreases motivation and follow-through. Your brain interprets the imagined success as real enough that it stops generating the urgency signals needed to actually pursue it. You feel the relief of having already arrived before doing any of the work. What works instead, Wettingen's research found, is something she calls WOOP, wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. You visualize what you want. You visualize the best case outcome. But then you specifically visualize the exact obstacles that will try to stop you, and you pre-decide your response. If you want to invest $1,000 this month, but know You always raid savings when a stressful situation hits. The whoop approach says, decide in advance that the moment that urge shows up, you open the investment app first. You're programming the if-then response before the trigger fires. This isn't just motivational. Wettingen ran controlled trials at NYU, the University of Pennsylvania, and in German health clinics showing Whoop significantly outperforms positive thinking alone on follow-through metrics across health, financial, and academic goals. So train your brain, but train it for obstacles and planned responses, not just for the outcome you want. The affirmation matters. The goal, clarity, matters. And the plan for when everything gets hard matters just as much as the vision. If this is clicking for you, drop a comment below with the single biggest financial habit you're working on right now. I read them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. The next video builds directly on what I'm about to share, and it's the thing that took me the longest to actually understand. This next piece is the one that changes the game for people who are starting with skills but not capital. Cody Sanchez, founder and CEO, and one of the sharpest minds in small business strategy, has a concept she calls expertise to equity. The idea is this: you don't have to put cash down to own a piece of something. You can put your skills down instead. Here's the practical version. You find a small business owner who has a real problem you know how to solve: revenue growth, operational systems, customer acquisition, whatever your skill set actually covers. Instead of asking for a salary, you negotiate for a percentage of the growth you generate. If you help a business grow its revenue by 50%, you get 10 to 15% of that incremental growth. The business owner risks nothing financially. You invest time and expertise rather than capital. And if the work is real, you're building equity in something you didn't have to fund. This is exactly how private equity firms operate at scale. Buy an underperforming asset, apply operational expertise, exit at a higher multiple. Cody's insight is that you can run this playbook at the micro level, years before you have the capital to do it big. But here's what behavioral economics adds to this that most people miss. Thaler's mental accounting and what David Laibson at Harvard documented as hyperbolic discounting, the way humans systematically overvalue immediate certain gains versus future uncertain ones, explains why most employees never even consider this kind of proposal. The guaranteed $5,000 a month salary feels safer than the potential $50,000 equity stake, even when the mathematically expected value of the equity is higher. We discount uncertain gains out of proportion to the actual risk. That bias costs people fortunes. A woman named Rachel, a 38-year-old operations consultant in Seattle, figured this out when a contract renewal came up at a logistics company she'd been helping for 2 years. She knew their business better than most of their internal people. She'd already saved them over $1 million in efficiency improvements. When the renewal came, rather than negotiating a higher hourly rate, she did something different. She offered to accept a slightly lower hourly rate in exchange for 3% equity in the company. The owner said yes immediately. 18 months later, they sold to a regional competitor. Rachel's 3% turned out to be worth more than 4 years of salary increases would have been combined. The catch is real. This only works if the expertise is genuinely expert level, which is exactly why the next thing matters so much. Here is the one that feels the most counterintuitive, and it's the one the research backs hardest. You've probably consumed a lot of content telling you that your mindset is the problem. Fix your money beliefs. Heal your scarcity wounds. Reprogram your relationship with money before you can make any. And some of that matters. What I'm saying is, it's the wrong starting point for the majority of people. B.J. Fogg at Stanford's Behavior Design Lab spent years studying how human behavior actually changes. His 2019 book, Tiny Habits, documents what his research consistently found. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel motivated and then take action. You take a small action, you register the win, however small, and motivation grows from that experience. The neurological mechanism is real. Completed actions release dopamine, which drives further action. The feeling is a product of the behavior, not the prerequisite. William James, who is considered the father of American psychology and whose work predates all of this modern research by more than a century, wrote it plainly. Action seems to follow feeling, but really action and feeling go together, and by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling. He said that in 1890. It's still right. You cannot think your way into being a different person with money. You act your way into it. Open the investment account before you feel ready. Set the automatic transfer before the amount stops feeling embarrassingly small. Pitch the equity proposal before the conversation stops feeling terrifying. The identity shifts because the behavior shifted first, not because you spent enough time journaling about your money blocks. James Clear crystallized this in Atomic Habits as identity-based habits. Every time you make a financial decision that reflects who you intend to become rather than who you've been, you cast one vote for that new identity. One vote doesn't win an election, but enough votes, accumulated over enough time, changes the outcome. You start thinking of yourself as someone who invests, not someone who tries to save. And that identity, once it takes root, makes the next action easier, without requiring any additional belief work. The practical version: stop trying to become someone who believes they deserve to be wealthy before you take action. Start acting like someone who is building wealth today, with the smallest action currently available to you. Move $25 into an S&P 500 index fund this afternoon. That's it. Let the identity follow the action, not the other way around. Now, let's talk about what wealthy actually means, because most people are chasing the wrong target, and the math tells you why. Scott Galloway, professor of marketing at NYU Stern, and one of the clearest thinkers on economic security, draws a distinction that I want to put into concrete terms. He defines it precisely. Wealth is having passive income that exceeds your burn rate, not income that matches expenses. Income that exceeds them. That gap, however small at first, is the functional difference between financial anxiety and financial freedom. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, among the wealthiest 20% of American households, the largest driver of net worth is not earned income. It's invested financial assets generating returns. The income got them in position. The assets produce the wealth. Jaspreet Singh's formula comes back here. Income minus expenses equals investments plus savings. Your primary job in the early stage isn't to maximize income as fast as possible. That's most people's default instinct. It's to consistently redirect the gap between income and expenses into assets that generate returns on their own. The compound math isn't complicated, and it isn't secret. A 30-year-old who puts $500 a month into a broad market index fund, earning the historical average of roughly 7% annually after inflation, would have approximately $1.17 million by age 65. That's 425 months of consistent action. Not brilliance, not a breakthrough, not finding the right guru, just showing up every month and not stopping. Here's the final boss in that plan, and it's the one behavioral science has the most to say about. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky documented loss aversion in their landmark 1979 prospect theory paper. Humans feel the psychological pain of a loss roughly twice as strongly as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. That means the months when your portfolio drops by 15%, and they will come multiple times over a 35-year investing horizon, feel catastrophic to your nervous system even when they are mathematically irrelevant to your outcome. The emotional brain screams sell. The math says stay. The people who build generational wealth are not the ones who don't feel that pull. They're the ones who design their systems so their emotional brain isn't in the room when the decision gets made. Automate the investment. Never check the balance during a market correction. Measure success by contribution, consistency, not account balance. Remove the human from the equation at the precise moment the human is least capable of thinking clearly. Here's the thing that doesn't get said in most videos like this one, and it's the reason I wanted to end here. The money experts don't actually agree that the first milestone is a number. Not $10,000, not $100,000, not even $1 million. The first real milestone, the one that changes the internal experience, is the moment passive income covers one single bill, one subscription, one utility payment. The moment some money is working for you, even a small amount, something shifts in how you relate to the whole system. It stops being abstract math on a screen and becomes something that has a material effect on your life. And that shift, which is ultimately a psychological one, is what every expert I've studied is really pointing toward when they talk about building wealth from zero. It's not the formula. It's the rewire. And the rewire starts with one decision taken today before you feel ready. Next video, I'm breaking down the specific investment sequencing that makes the most mathematical sense depending on where you're starting, whether that's zero debt, heavy debt, or the confusing middle. And there's one counterintuitive move in there that most traditional financial advisors won't walk you through because it's not in their interest to. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch that one.